Hey guys, it's Ty from Same Day Hot Water Service. Today we're going to be talking all about heat pump hot water heaters and what you can gain from them, either in carbon footprint on the environmental side or running cost side as well, and whether this is a good decision for your needs or not. Heat pumps are basically an air conditioner that heats hot water, and in doing so it uses a smaller amount of power or energy compared to electricity or gas. From there you can make savings on consumption, which is a dollar factor that you're saving, and also a carbon footprint factor as well. So today I'm going to be talking about how heat pumps work, a little bit about all the different types of heat pumps in the market, and a few things that will influence your decision as to what heat pump you should be choosing or not choosing if you don't want to go down that path. So there's going to be a few points that will come up in the side here. If you feel the need to skip to that point of the video that reflects what you're after, please do so, because it is going to be a little bit intensive, this video on heat pumps and all the different things that we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so how a heat pump works for starters is if we spin this around, this heat pump here, we have a evaporator, which is pretty similar to a radiator on a car. It's basically copper pipes with some fins on it, and that takes heat out of the atmosphere. From there, that heat then goes into the compressor, and the compressor literally does what the name of the product says that it does. It compresses those gases, and those gases, once compressed, create more heat, and that heat is then transferred into the water supply itself inside the tank for use as we need it. If we spin this heat pump around this way, we have a fan. This fan is just to increase the amount of airflow on the heat pump and therefore strip more heat out of the atmosphere. If we didn't have this fan, it would still work, it just wouldn't be nearly as efficient as what it could be. And then we're going to go around one more time. So like an air conditioner, we have a byproduct of condensation. So this condensation, this will just trickle out. There's no acidity to it, it's just water out of the atmosphere itself, one of the byproducts of every air conditioner on the market, which this is no different to that. We're now going to be talking about all the different types of heat pumps. This model here is what we call, or what I call, a compact design with tank wrap. Okay, we have a tank and we have a heat pump bolted to the top, so it's an all-in-one model. And we have a tank wrap system where a pipe or a micro channel wraps around the tank and transfers the heat into the water supply from there. We jump across to this Rinnai heat pump here, and we've got a much better view of the compressor, but instead of a coil or a pipe that wraps around, we have a heat exchanger. Now the heat exchanger is basically refrigerant gases on one side and water on the other side. The refrigerant gases are heated by the compressor, which is normal, and by mechanical means we have a pump, which is right here, that circulates cold water through the heat exchanger and brings it back hot on the other side. We now go over to our reclaim heat pump, which is very similar to the method just said then, but instead of a compact all-in-one, we have a split system heat pump. So we have a circulating pump as well as a heat exchanger inside of this box here, and that is what drives the heat back into the tank itself. The second last one we have, which we don't have here, is a split system heat pump, but through refrigeration pipes in the tank itself. There isn't really much on the market doing that these days. There was a company, Saxon, they've gone out of business. I don't know of any mainstream companies that are doing it. And the last one, which we will not be covering, is geothermal. My thoughts on geothermal is, unless you're in a really, really cold climate, it is probably not worth it to go down the path of geothermal. The outlay and what you gain from it is very poor. So our negatives of a heat pump is, for one, we have more mechanical components. So a traditional electric storage hot water heater, we have an element, we have a thermostat. there's not much else going on. A gas hot water heater, we have a gas controller, a burner, and again, there's not much going on. Here in this unit, we have a printed circuit board, which is at the front. I don't need to show you that. We have a compressor, we have a dryer, we have a evaporator. The evaporator, there's not much mechanical, there is no mechanical means going on there. But this compressor is a moving component, and you do need to consider those additional components in regards to maintenance in long term. The maintenance on heat pumps is very minimal. It's essentially an air conditioner, refrigerator that heats water. So to date, we don't do too much work on them. Initial outlay. A heat pump is probably going to cost you double the amount compared to a standard electrical gas hot water heater. So factor that into your costs. Temperature that the unit can produce hot water at. So electric tank or gas tank will heat water to 65, 70, even 75 degrees Celsius. These heat pumps are usually limited by around 58, 59, 60 degrees, sometimes 63 degrees on some particular models. The reason for that is the compressors don't like going to those sort of temperatures. So whilst it's all well and good to compare a 250 litre tank and a 250 litre tank, if the water temperatures are at two different levels or temperatures, then it's not going to give you the same amount of hot water as you had previously. Okay, 60 degrees of 250 degree hot water is a little bit different to 70 degrees of 250 litre hot water. You'll add more cold water or less hot water to your shower on the electric tank, that's at 70 degrees. Locations that the units can be installed, there's a little bit less flexibility. For one, height can be a major factor. Two, they can't really go indoors unless you have some minimum airflow requirements to be met. So keep that in mind with your installation. One of the big ones we have is from customers is timer technology. So a lot of these heat pumps have inbuilt timers, which basically means that we can run the heat pump during a particular time of day, and therefore one, couple that with solar PV through time of use heating, or two, increase the efficiency of the product itself. The next one is COP. COP stands for coefficient of performance. And what that basically means is if you put 1 kilowatt of electricity into the heat pump itself, you get a certain amount back out of the heat pump compared to an electric element hot water heater. So if you put 1 kilowatt into an electric tank, you get 1 kilowatt back out in heat energy. In a heat pump situation, we're working on closer to 1 kilowatt in, 4 kilowatts out of equivalent heat energy. Unfortunately, there is no consistency in the marketplace regarding COPs, but one, because of what the manufacturers put down on their literature. COP will change with the ambient air temperature of the product as well. So as we increase in ambient air temperature, so does the efficiency of the product itself. So we might be working on a standard 1 to 4 at 20 degrees Celsius, but if we go up to, let's say, 30 degrees Celsius, we might be working on a 1 to 5 ratio on efficiency. So you can do a lot more with these products through timer functionality if you have the storage capacity available for you. Because keep in mind, you're set by that storage capacity in the tank for what your family's needs are. Decibel ratings is basically the noise that comes from a heat pump itself. Back in the day, we used to get a lot of concerns with customers being concerned about the amount of noise being created by the heat pump itself. These days, most technology is running around the 50 decibels, all the way down to 40 decibels, give or take. So this particular unit, I think, runs at 48 decibels, and which is reasonably quiet. It's basically the sound of a conversation for 40 decibels, for 50 decibels, and 40 decibels is about the same sound as rustling leaves. So they're pretty quiet with what they do. Operation, if you're using timer functionality, it's less of a concern. And then think about the placement of your heat pump. It needs to be probably away from bedrooms and things like that. But think of near kitchens, laundries, places of the house where it's not going to cause a nuisance. But it is air conditioning technology, so it should make a similar noise to what your air conditioning makes at the moment. What GWP is global warming potential and how that compares to carbon dioxide. So we have three main gases in the market. We have one called R290, one called R134A, and we also have one that is called R744. So they all have different global warming numbers, and this basically compares that to carbon dioxide for a 100-year period. So the R290 has a 3 number, so it is 3 times worse than carbon dioxide. The R134A has a number of 1,430, and our carbon dioxide gas, which is in our reclaim unit, has 1, which means it's exactly the same as carbon dioxide because it is carbon dioxide. There is a slight move with companies going to either carbon dioxide or R290. R134A has been around a long time, and that's what most companies have traditionally used. So I'm not going against R134A, it's just there's a lot of companies that are going towards the R290. So this is more split versus compact. Flexibility, you can have a compact unit, maybe not so much in a garage, sometimes with these tall rinneyes, depending on your head height. Most of the time it's fine. And then sometimes indoors, you struggle to put them indoors. That's where a split system heat pump may come in, is you may be able to put a tank in the laundry itself and the heat pump outside. Or if the unit's outside, which they're all approved to go outside, you have no issues usually, unless you've got a narrow space. And then you need to look at another option as to what you can potentially do for hot water. Okay, we're now going to be going over the return on investment on a heat pump and whether it stacks up for yourself. So these numbers are purely my opinion, and if you have any input, please put comments in the video. Be nice with it, please, though. But your own personal situation will differ, so please do the figures on your side. So these figures I've done on 280 litres of hot water used for the household per day. That's 4 people in the household, 70 litres of hot water per person. I've put an average of 15 degrees Celsius for cold water inlet temperature. I've done a 20 degrees Celsius ambient air temperature. So this table, we're going to have all the different types of hot water heaters out there. We're going to have an initial outlay, a cost per unit of fuel used per annum, and then annual running costs. So heat pump, we're up at $4,000. Solar, $5,600. Electric peak is $1,100. Off peak is $1,600. 4-star natural gas is $1,600. 6-star natural gas continuous flow is $1,400. 6-star LPG is $1,400. Our cost per unit of fuel is 28 cents for electricity, continuous power tariff, and we've got 14 cents on the off peak. Our natural gas is 3 cents per megajoule and 5 cents per megajoule on the LPG. Fuel used per annum on the heat pump is 1,368 kilowatts. Solar is 1,368 kilowatts as well. We've done these the same because solar pretty much saves you 60 to 90% on your running side, so it's comparable, and so therefore I think it should be the same. Electric peak is 5,475 kilowatts, and off peak is the same. It doesn't matter if it's off peak or continuous, it's just the price per kilowatt that's different between those two. 4-star natural gas is 30,866 megajoules used per year, and 6-star for both LPG and natural gas is both 28,200 megajoules used per annum. Okay, so our annual running cost, what that equals out to is $383 for the heat pump, same for the solar. The electric peak is $1,533, and then the off peak is $766. 4-star natural gas is $925. 6-star natural gas is $846, and 6-star LPG is going to cost you $1,410. So from here, what you need to figure out is that return over, let's say, a 10-year period, which is a normal longevity of any of these hot water heaters. It's probably likely more, might be 15 or 16 years on the continuous flow. Storage tanks, most of them will be around 12, 13 years, which is reasonable, I believe. Your initial outlay at year 1, and compare that with your running costs per year over that 10-year period for how long it's going to take you to pay for that off. Things that I don't have in here is rebates and incentives. So currently the heat pump and solar both have STCs. STCs is around $900, give or take, depending on which system you use. In Victoria, there's also one called the Veeks. That's worth around $1,500 if you're replacing an electric tank with a heat pump or solar hot water heater. And then there's also the Victorian Solar Incentive as well. There's another one in New South Wales that's recently launched. It's the ESS points, and that's going to be around $500 to $800. I'm replacing a gas hot water heater with a electric heat pump or solar hot water heater. So these figures that we've just done, I believe, are reflective of most households in the market and a true reflection of that household as well. Your usage may be up, it may be down. If you have more usage, you have more savings. If you have less usage, you have less savings. So just do those figures. A couple other things to consider is ambient air temperatures. So if you're using timer functionalities where you can get a couple extra percentage points. So I mentioned before with COP, if you can get a 1 to 5, for example, if you're in a few warmer parts of Australia, that may help you out, but obviously your ambient water temperature will be higher as well. Solar metering as well. So with solar PV, a lot of people are getting roughly 7 cents per kilowatt back on their solar, and a lot of customers are coupling these hot water heaters with their solar hot water system to work during the daytime only. I normally advise customers to do a 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. time frame during the day itself to make the most of solar PV as well as the ambient air temperatures. But with that solar PV side, you won't be getting those kilowatts back or sending those kilowatts back to the grid for that 7 cents back, and therefore you'll have to take that off that bill as you return, because that's now been put into the heat pump hot water system itself. We are talking about only, let's say, 3 to 4 kilowatts for a heat pump being used per day, maybe 5 kilowatts in some cold areas. So it's not that big of a strain on your PV side, so I believe it is worth your while to put those spare kilowatts into the heat pump instead of into the grid itself. The last ones on the natural gas side is on a LPG or natural gas, there is a service fee or a bottle fee in most situations. So count that in. There are a lot of customers that are doing away with natural gas completely or LPG completely, and they're just running a sole electric house. ACT, a few parts in Victoria and South Australia, they are moving towards no natural gas being used on households. So do those figures, see how it stacks up, and then if it's worth it, it's worth it. So guys, if you need a hot water system either supplied, installed or serviced, give us a phone call on 1300 721 996 or visit us at samedayhotwaterservice.com.au.